if you have a single health club, you're probably going to sell the health club for no more than 5 times EBITDA. So if you have a health club and it does $300,000 of cash flow, you're not going to get somebody to pay you more than $1.5 million for that 20,000 square foot box. And people say, well, why can't I get a multiple of like 10 times or 13 times? And the reality is that if I'm a buyer of your business, I could spend my own money, my 1.5 million. It'll take me a couple of years, but I could build a box that I like, that I don't have to replicate. I don't have to repaint it. I don't have to put the sign up. I don't have to deal with your membership legacy contracts. I don't have to deal with the lease that you signed that maybe I don't like some of the terms of the lease. So there's kind of like a ceiling that you can't really break.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On today's episode, I'm catching up with Pete Moore, founder of Integrity Square and a go-to voice when it comes to fitness finance. We're doing a mid-year pulse check on M&A activity across the industry and what it all means for operators and investors. We'll learn what valuations are holding strong and where there might be trouble, why franchise models could be back in the spotlight heading into 2026, and learn the signals about where the market is heading. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. Pete Moore, Captain Halo.
Can we do that? Should I take this hat off, this thing off? I'm not returning it, probably.
Well, that's your call. You can make it look really mint by just keeping it there.
I'll do that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right? If it's as mint as your sneaker game is, which
well, what are you wearing today, my dear? What are you wearing today? I'm not wearing.
Well,
for a funeral.
It's hard to believe, but here in Vancouver, it is super toasty. I am in some Adidas slides. I'm not even in sneaker land right now.
I never got into those slides. I still wear flip flops, like I'm like in an old age facility in Florida.
If I'm being fully transparent, these are probably the most uncomfortable pair of shoes I own. It's like they want you to have an arch.
West. It's not Kanye West, I hope.
No, not Yeezys.
Okay.
Yeezys, whatever it is. Who the fuck cares?
Are we recording already?
I knew you were hopping on, and I was like, you never know what's going to happen with Pete Moore. Hit record before he joins. So yes.
Okay, so we got Batman that you got to like splice in there somewhere, right?
Without question. That's not going anywhere.
And I got my EBITDA hat on.
Yes.
At the recent show, we've adopted new hats called Adjusted EBITDA. For your audience, means basically all the profit you might make if you don't make any of the mistakes that I made last year, or anything that happened that might have been a one-off is not going to happen again. That would be my adjusted EBITDA, or my adjusted cash flow, that I would like you to pay me a multiple on, not just dollar for dollar. So that's our little finance quiz today. So one is, it's great to see you. Even shoeless or sneakerless or whatever, I'm fine with that. I'm actually wearing a pair of shoes right now, which I'm not comfortable with because I like to be in my sneaker gear. But it was good seeing you at the ATN show. I thought Ed and crew did a nice job there, and I have high hopes that continues to proliferate, and that more and more people come into the sector. I'm trying to get them to adopt my name, Halo, Health Active Lifestyle Outdoors. Feel free to use it if you'd like anytime. It's royalty free. And now we're friends. So if you could use it and help me out, I appreciate it also. Be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that event was in your neighborhood too. So that was super convenient for you. You didn't have far to travel.
It helps on reimbursement expenses to my team. Yes, thank you. And we had a panel with Terry Blachik, who ran one of the largest Orange Theory area developers, and a guy named Mark Federico, who runs one of the largest Crunch area developers. Just to talk about what it takes to build a business and focus it on the unit economics, focus on building a team and not outgrowing your staff and not outgrowing the territory that you really need to saturate. So I thought there were some good learnings on that front. For the standpoint of what's going on in the industry right now in the Halo sector, health, active lifestyle, outdoors at large, there's a significant amount of investment that continues to kind of, drip into this space pretty aggressively. It probably drip's the wrong word, but maybe like flood at this point. Some of the bigger deals that have gotten the headlines are the EōS deal, which was a deal that we did for historical purposes 10 years ago. It was the largest Gold's Gym franchisee based in Arizona, Las Vegas, San Diego, and Palm Springs. 17 clubs, about $12 million of EBITDA. The private equity group called BRS bought the company for about $82 million. I think that's public. If it's not, it's past the confidentiality of 10 years, so I don't care anyway. $82 million. And it got sold pretty much the last couple of months, whenever it actually closed, but the definitive agreement was signed at somewhere around $1.5 billion. So when you think about the value creation that is done when you go from 17 clubs to 125 clubs and have another 50 clubs in development, once you have a scalable prototype that you tested in multiple states, and then you say, hey, this box is the winning box, and if I can find a location that has the right demographics and the right traffic flows and the right visibility and enough parking, if I've got a team that can actually replicate that and do almost $1 million per location in EBITDA on a $3-ish million revenue base, you can make a lot of headway in building real value in a business. And then it was sold. Supposedly the number is somewhere around 13 times EBITDA. And for your audience and for you and for me, because I like to listen to myself every once in a while. No, I don't.
Love it.
I just want to talk. I just want to.
You just had to put it out there. Give yourself a little pat on the back.
It's a Dropbox. My brain's a Dropbox. I can get it all out, so I can get more stuff, and I'll bring it back to you guys.
I love it.
But most health clubs, if you have a single health club, you're probably going to sell the health club for no more than 5 times EBITDA. So if you have a health club and it does $300,000 of cash flow, you're not going to get somebody to pay you more than $1.5 million for that 20,000 square foot box. And people say, well, why can't I get a multiple of like 10 times or 13 times? And the reality is that if I'm a buyer of your business, I could spend my own money, my $1.5 million. It'll take me a couple of years, but I could build a box that I like, that I don't have to replicate. I don't have to repaint it. I don't have to put the sign up. I don't have to deal with your membership legacy contracts. I don't have to deal with the lease that you signed that maybe I don't like some of the terms of the lease. So there's kind of like a ceiling that you can't really break. And someone asked me the other day, why don't strategic buyers pay more for businesses in the health club industry? Because in most industries, when you have a strategic come along, they'll buy a business and they'll pay more than what a financial buyer will pay. And the reality is, in this industry, when a financial buyer wants to build a platform and grow it, which has been done very successfully over the last 20 years in the restaurant industry, whether it's a Taco Bell or whether it's a McDonald's franchise or whether it's a Chick-fil-A or what have you, those types of concepts.
I just tried Chick-fil-A for the first time, by the way.
What the hell? What are you waiting for?
I'm Canadian. It's not my fault. We're not getting Chick-fil-A. I think it's forecast 2026, 2030. Anyways.
Well, I want to start up an athletic chicken company, and basically we only serve the best chickens that are at the chicken farm, and then we sell all the rest of them to like KFC or something. So you are what you eat, and then you can get only the best chickens, and we get like a chicken psychologist, and they'll pick out the best ones. So you could have the most popular chicken that was on there. That would be like $12. You could get like a introverted chicken for like $3. So based on their personality, it's an idea. Anyway, welcome to
fleshing it out.
Welcome to the Chick-fil-A ride. Enjoy it. It's
the breakfast biscuit really just changed my life, but continue.
Yeah. The one thing about Chick-fil-A as a franchisor is they actually only let people buy one location, as far as I know, is my recent information, because they don't want to create area developers. They want you to basically own that one location and maybe have 2 or 3 max. But if you look at Orange Theory, and that was an area development agreement, Crunch sells areas. Massage Envy was the one that started this whole game of like selling an area developer license to a state. They collect the money for the state, and then the area developer basically could sub-franchise. So it's almost like a multi-level marketing franchise play, and that's why Massage Envy is as big as it is, and that's why Orange Theory grew as quickly as it did as well. Whereas the Club Pilates, as an analogy, actually only sell locations to single operators and maybe some area developers, but they kind of sold too many locations where I can't buy a state of a Club Pilates. So my point about a financial buyer, going back to what I thought I was talking about, which I got sidetracked because of chicken. Unbelievable where these
I mean, you might have
podcasts
come
go
up with the
sometimes.
next big business idea there, or it's a load of Bach. We'll find
If
out.
anybody steals my idea, just have at it because I'm super busy. I'm not going to execute on it, but I'd love to have an athletic chicken company, like athletic brewing company, athletic chicken company,
There you
and
go.
then have them do laps around. You can pick out your chicken like you used to pick out lobster at the seafood store,
Oh,
the
yeah.
restaurant. Yeah, that would go well with the what is it, ASPCA or something like the
Yeah, I was like, PETA might be barking up your tree, but neither here nor
PETA.
there.
Yeah, PETA. That's great. Um, My point is that financial buyers want to find a unit economic box that works. Once you show that this box does a certain amount of members, does a certain amount of revenue, has a certain amount of expenses, and actually generates this type of return, and then you could replicate it a couple times on your own or with your friends and family money, or borrowing money from an SBA, or borrowing money from a bank, or from a wealthy investor, let's say. Once you get 3 to 5 of those, then you could go to private equity and say, hey, look what I did. Okay. And this is what I could do. And I think this location could be transferable into other states in suburban areas. That could maybe be something that could work in urban markets, and we could replicate this special sauce or this like operating playbook. A lot of people that live in a location sometimes think that they're a victim. I've been doing some podcast riffs and some videos lately on my fast breaks. I don't know if you've seen any of them yet, but like I'm coming at people. I'm wearing like a medical doctor shirt and like a stethoscope. It's like if you're a boutique operator and you have 3 classes on the calendar a day, there's zero chance that you could be successful. And the one thing that's not a good strategy is the word hope. Okay. Hope is not a good financial strategy. Okay. And also, I just with an operator of a boutique the other day, and I said, what are you doing to get leads here? Like, you got a personal training studio. He said, I spent like $6,000 on Facebook and Meta. I'm like, what's your return on that? It's like, he's getting like 4 or 5 leads a month. I'm like, dude, there's like 20 high-rise buildings in New York City that each have 700 people that live in it. Okay. And they're all within a 5-block walk of where you are. That is your hyper marketing local marketing strategy. And stop using technology as a weapon that doesn't work for you. I feel like people sometimes hide behind like, oh, I sent out a text message. Oh, I sent out an email. Bro, no one reads that stuff anymore anyway, because I know it's spam. It's not personalized to me. So it might be a good idea if you have a business, and this goes back to unit economics, okay? If I could attract enough people in and I can get people results, then I have something called return on relationships. It's called ROR. It's not return on equity. It's not return on assets, return on relationships. And if you think about in this day and age, relationships actually could be really sticky, and they cannot be undone if you help somebody lose 20 pounds and if you help someone get like look good in pictures. Okay. So I want people who are listening to this podcast to say like, hey, I want to get private equity money. Hey, I want to sell my company for 13 times EBITDA. Crunch just got sold for 18 times EBITDA. Why do they get those multiples? Because somebody actually figured out what this box will do. I can show someone, a financial investor, hey, this is what the last 20 did. Okay, this is probably what the next 20 are going to do. That's how you get money, right? As I say, as a joke, I say, if you come to me and say, hey, I've got 10 clubs and I've got one more club that I want to do, and then I'm going to build 50, I'm going to say, which one of those 10 is the prototype? And they say, well, the 11th one is going to be the prototype. I'm like, that's not I can't get you money unless you have a prototype. And then you can get outside money to fund your dream. So I call myself a dream architect. So I'm going to
There you
stop
go.
talking now because I
Dream
want to hear how you're
architect
doing.
and Captain Halo. Well, the thing that I'm curious, because in your words, you did correct yourself, drip versus flood. But I feel like in the not so distant history, even last year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it seemed like the climate for investors was more like a drip. So what's changed? Because all of a sudden it seems like the switch has flipped and there's investors really wanting to get into the Halo space.
Yeah, thanks for using the term. So what happened was during COVID, there was a massive window shopping operation that went on by private equity groups, venture capital groups, in anything related to bricks and mortar concept. They say, hey, that's good. When you get back to post-COVID and get your financials back from where they were, then we'll have a conversation, because nobody wants to sell their business based on where your numbers were during COVID or after COVID. And then you needed a year to kind of reset. And then you also needed to figure out how you're going to get your landlords and your debt financing kind of reorganized, and maybe some investors that wanted out because they needed the money, or maybe they were not bullish on the business. So if you think about like 2020 was the worst year ever, right? 2021 was like, can I hold on for dear life? 2022 and 2023 were like, hey, let me recover and like get my stamina back and like get my operation back, where somebody can now look back. If I'm doing any deal, I got to look back 12 months on your financials. The reason why I have to look back 12 months is because if I want to get a debt financing partner, so I'm going to borrow money, not just put equity in, but actually borrow money, they have to see the LTM, the latest 12 months, or the TTM, right? So if you think about like, when does everything kind of cycle through, you can't really do a deal before like January 1, 2024 in order to get enough of the LTM that's like real new LTM, like a post-COVID, like clean year is kind of why. All right. And then as you're going through the process of like who wins and who loses, right, you realize that, hey, these Orange Theories, they just didn't come out of the gate as quickly as they did before, right? Planet Fitness came right out of the gate. People went back in there. The area developers were not pressured by their debt financing partners. They were encouraged to grow. Planet Corporate started to add some more revenue opportunities, increase their annual maintenance fee, put in some more, like group exercise areas, and are doing some more things that are generating revenue for their franchisee base. And then you had somebody like a Solid Core, which totally crushed it. You had Club Pilates and every other Pilates concept. Part of that is because people finally woke up to the fact that if you spend time doing Pilates, your time to results is probably the highest return. And you're probably going to find out that there are muscles in your body that you never knew of, and they hurt you
without question.
Yeah. So there's a lot of interest in Pilates. There's a lot of interest in multi-unit operators that are on the low end of the spectrum. And on the high end, Lifetime Fitness went public again. And they basically said, I am going to be the category killer in pickleball. Right. And that was like part of their philosophy and their vision. And they executed on that. And the public markets have basically applauded them with a high valuation of over like 15, 16 times EBITDA, because they've done that. And they've turned these areas that, might not be as revenue generating as they were before. And they've added pickleball courts. They've added some co-working spaces. They've increased the value of their membership. And
they've gone hard into longevity as well, like in a huge way.
Yeah. And that they might be like, hitting the top of the, the icing on the cake, and hopefully it kind of like trickles down where people can afford some of the things that they're doing with that side of it. But there's been a lot of money thrown at the sector, which is good. The investors are not throwing money into concepts that don't have good unit economics. So there's very few mistakes that are being made, I would say, overall. And some of that is because people are actually doing the work now and understanding it. Like an F45 as an example. If you read their franchise disclosure document, which every franchisor has to put out into the public domain, their unit economics, they were making $33,000 of revenue. Okay. A month. That means you're making $1,000 a day. You can't run a successful business, and I'll say it here and I'll say it till I break tire from this thing. You have to make $2,000 a day. And it's up to you to fill up your calendar to figure out how to do that, or don't come into this industry because you will fail and you'll put a black eye on the market. So F45 was never a good business. Pure Bar, never a good business on average, right? So when you get concepts that come out and people are selling somebody a dream, that affects a lot of people. And Exponential Brands, which was, kind of like the beauty at the ball for several years, should have just stuck with Club Pilates and should have just stuck with Stretch Labs, which are two concepts that work. And they added a lot of other brands that didn't have the unit economics, but they're really good at selling franchises to people. Now, and this is to saying to some of the franchisors, if you don't have your unit economics and your playbook figured out, then don't sell somebody something that you don't believe in, that you can actually replicate. The reason a franchise is because you don't have the money and you don't have the time to actually build 1,000 locations. That's why you're supposed to franchise and give me 8% because you're using my playbook. You know, you're a hockey fan, right?
Well,
Or
I'm
football?
Canadian, so it's in my DNA.
Are you a football fan at all, like Seattle Seahawks or something?
I'm really fun in the stands. Don't know much about the game.
Okay, so if I took like these Seattle Seahawks like offensive playbook that was like probably a 3-ring binder and I gave it to you, I'd say, hey, pay me 8% of every win that you get. That's how it would work, right? That's what a franchisor is supposed to do. I'm supposed to give you a playbook. You go run this, do exactly what I say. Don't deviate from it, and you will make money. Right? That's what a franchise is supposed to be. So franchisors that are doing well, there's a group called Perspire Sauna, which I think is doing well from what I've heard. There are groups that are in the fitness boutique side that are good concepts. But you have to like pick and choose which ones are. And if you're buying a franchise as a franchisee, you really got to do your work and call every franchisee and ask one question. Krissy, you don't have to ask one question. Would you do this again? If they say yes, buy the franchise. If they say no, that's a tell. And I guarantee you, every single person that owns a franchise will tell you the truth when you ask them that question, because they don't want someone to make that mistake, or they're happy to tell you how awesome their decision was. So it's kind of like a trick question when you think about it, but it gets you the answer you need.
Yeah, without question. On the topic of investments, again, we talked about the drip to the flood, but I'm curious when it comes to the dollars that are on the table. Let's say you do have your playbook dialed in, your business dialed in, and you are somebody that is looking to sell. How are valuations looking? Are they holding steady, rising, or facing pressure at the moment?
Right now, they're rising because there's more and more private equity groups and private investors that are trying to get into the Halo sector. They understand, either because they were a member or because they're able to understand unit economics and four-wall, cash flows and returns on investment, that they'll be able to pick this up. It's not that complicated of a business. Whereas like if you're on the med spa, longevity, or that's a little harder to understand the medical side. We've got a client, Serotonin, that is about to become one of the larger players in the space, but it's complex.
Yeah.
With regulations and nurses and practitioners and things of that nature. So if you said, where's the market for 1 to 3 clubs, probably 4.5 to 5 times EBITDA, which, just so people know, is all your revenue minus all your expenses, taking out any kind of capital improvements that you put into the club. So just basically what happens in the 4 walls, how much cash do you make, and then multiply that by 4.5 to 5 times for a 3 club chain. You go up to a 10 club chain, you might be at like 6 to 6.5 times, because now I've got the diversity of locations. It'd be helpful if you're outside of one state, so you have multi-state. And then if you get to larger numbers where you've got anywhere between like $10 million of cash flow up to like $30 million of cash flow, those could be anywhere between 7 to 9 times. And the reason why those numbers are what they are, one is I couldn't replicate that in any reasonable amount of time, right? If I'm building a 30 or 50,000 square foot facility, it'll take me at least 5 years to do that, right? So I'm not just going to pay you 5. I'm going to pay you 2.5. I'm going to pay you 1.5 times that amount, which would be like 7.5, right? 5 plus 2.5, 7.5, because you built it. I can't replicate it. I don't have time to wait because I got money that I need to invest today, right? So, and then when you get to area developers like a Planet Fitness, which I basically it's like a 20,000 square foot cash register. Okay, that's basically what it is, right? I have the right to put those anywhere I want in my state. So I'm paying up. Well, I might pay 9 or 10 times EBITDA because you've given me the right to put more cash registers down in the ground. I've never said it that directly, but that's basically what you're doing. It makes $700,000 per cash register. What they don't do is they don't say, "Hey, Krissy, come to Planet Fitness and get results." It's like, "Hey, Krissy, come on in. Like, good luck on your own," right? The business model is not to be personalized because I don't have anybody there. And as much as you say technology, this and that, it's like somebody's got to know my name, or like we don't have a relationship. Let's like boil it down to what it really is. So valuations are going up right now. They're not going to stay there forever. Okay, that's just not how it works. And also,
what's your crystal ball see in regards to that?
You got 36 months. I mean, I did a riff on this on my Thursday's fast break. I said you got 36 months because if you do not sell to somebody who's consolidated your market, it's not because they want to, they have to build. And the equity groups that are backing these companies, if you don't grow the number of units and you don't grow your EBITDA, then you can't make any money on your investment. It's like very simple. So if I have 50 clubs today and I have 51 clubs in 5 years from now, one, my EBITDA probably went down because my leases go up every year, right? Competition comes in. I'm not like the freshest, newest, coolest, club or podcaster like you. Like I'm not the coolest one anymore because you're there. So people come around,
Put
take
us
some of your market
together with our
share.
sneaker game. We're very cool.
I'm not. I view you as a collaborator. That's why I'm here. I'm always here. You say, "Hey, you want to be on my podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here in 24 hours." So look, valuations are coming up, but if you always want to sell when you're winning. And I was like making an analogy to somebody the other day. Maybe it was myself, but I thought I was talking to someone. The Lakers just sold for $10 billion. Okay. The Lakers are not in, Tampa, Florida. Okay. Nothing against Tampa. Tampa's a great town. They're not in Oklahoma City, and Oklahoma City just won, the NBA title. Like LA is the second largest market in the United States, probably has the most jerseys sold of any team based on LeBron and now, the new guys that they brought on there, or the superstars there. So the global reach of the Lakers and the density of that market that they're in and the legacy of winning, people will always wear Laker jerseys, right? When the Knicks are losing like 20 years in a row, there aren't as many people walking around with Knicks jerseys, but everyone's still walking around with Kobe. If you wear a Kobe jersey, you're saying like, I'm a winner, or like I aspire to win, right? So that actually gets valued into the value of the franchise. Like the Lakers have a winning team. My point is that if you have 5 clubs, you have 10 clubs, and you don't want to take in private equity and you just want to run it on your own, at some point, someone's going to come to you and offer you a fair deal, and you have to decide whether you're going to take it or not, or you're basically going to be competing with your money versus they're competing with other people's money. And private equity firms have money from the University of CalPERS, which is the largest pension and employer retirement fund in the world out of California, University of Washington, up by you, Harvard University, Yale, Dartmouth, Emory, all these colleges and universities put like 10 to 20% of their endowment fund into private equity. Okay. So they're basically funding the donations they get from a school are funding a couple of people. Like if you and I had a private equity fund, it was, called Krissy Halo Capital Partners, like we might get $100 million. Where do we get it? I don't know, might get it from a couple of universities. Like let's say we got them from Emory in Atlanta, and then we're going to go buy a health club chain in Atlanta. Now I'm using Emory's money to basically compete with the local operator in Atlanta, which sounds kind of crazy, but that's where the money's coming from. And then you and I keep 20% of the upside that we create and a 2% fee on the money that we're managing. So private equity is eating up the entire economy. There's a group called Rourke Capital down in Atlanta. They own Dunkin' Donuts, Cinnabon, Arby's, Anytime Fitness, Orange Theory, Buffalo Wild Wings. I think got one of those. So when you think about like who am I competing with? I'm competing with big dollars. It's not. This industry is not for like a mom and pop operator anymore. It's not. And you can have an awesome location. It's one location and it's in a suburban area and you got 300 members. That's great. If you just want to do that, that's awesome. But don't think that someone's going to come and buy business for 10 times, because for them to get it, for them to get their money back, they have to basically run the same play as you for 10 years before they make money. And that's probably longer than the lease is. So valuations are what they are for a reason. And they make sense intuitively on how much people are paying. And there's going to be people that overpay for things, and hopefully lessons will be learned. But the best M&A or mergers and acquisitions environment you can have when there's like a tight band of like, this is fair to the seller, this is fair to the buyer has enough return, the seller's getting compensated for the value that they've created, and let's put a fair deal together. When it's a last dollar deal, then the industry kind of gets a black eye of like, hey, I bought this lemon, this health club chain, or I bought this studio concept and it sucks, and I have to file for bankruptcy. Then the rest of the private equity community says, hey, is that where you go to lose money? You go to a halo sector? I'm like, I'm not, dude, you go here to make money. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, we're kind of in that fever pitch mode, but I'm curious when it comes to, because we spoke about franchising, boutique models. You mentioned some of the companies that you're involved with in the longevity space or recovery space, when it comes to what's attracting the most attention, or as we look at the next 36 months, Halo is all encompassing. It is a huge sector. So where is exciting you most, or where do you think we'll see the most activity flourish that perhaps might be flying a bit under the radar?
Well, look, I mean, if anybody's getting into the food industry or any kind of supplements, there's been a whole supplement kind of, renaissance period going on. And not joking, but a lot of it's because of gummy bears, that you can consume creatine now through a gummy bear, which I do. You can take all these multivitamins through gummy bears, which, like they're like kind of like Lay's potato chips. You don't eat just like two, right? You like chow down on these things. And the protein bars are now actually have 1% sugar instead of like 17 grams of sugar that they put and hide it on the label where they like flip it over so you don't even can't even remove it. So like that company David Bar, I don't know if you tried that. It's a protein bar.
I haven't tried it yet.
It was started by the guy who started the RX bar. And there's all sorts of companies out there right now on the women's health side. There's functional popsicle sticks. There's some called Prenuvo, which is like preventative health. Nico. All these companies are raising anywhere between like 13 to like $300 million. You and I have never heard of them yet, but we're going to hear about them in the next couple of years. So when you see a lot of money going into preventative health, that's basically, it's going to take 3 years for that to kind of go into the system. I'll tell you one quick anecdotal story is, 15 years ago, people started investing in drone technology. And I was like, dude, what's going on with this whole drone thing, right? I'm like, there's not a drone in the sky. I don't even know what's going on here. But there were like a lot of money by venture capital firms putting into, drone delivery, drone recreation, drone for the military. Okay, now if you look back and say, oh, dude, obviously the drone industry is what it is because it got all this money for R&D and got all these smart people to go in there. So that had to be the next wave. And then 5 years ago, you saw this money flooding into, analytics and AI, right? And now it's like, if you look back at like where the investment is, and then you can just go 5 years later and be like, oh, that's where the market is, because that's where all the investment was 5 years ago. So right now, the investment's being made in, engineering foods that are high protein, business models that are based on preventative health, the science behind like infrared technology and cold plunge. So things that you and I like tinker around with, or like when we go to that show and you got that, like, there's like an arm that's like giving you a massage. Like at some point that's going to be something, I don't know if it's going to be that version of it. And I don't know if that's a massage thing that like enables a massage therapist to like optimize or maybe have several people that they're massaging it or like in charge of, right? It might not just be like, hey, the robot replaced the human. Maybe the humans like has robots that work for him or her. That's probably what it's going to be, I think. And then you got that thing like the brain waves that look like the Batman.
We started off with it.
Yeah. Do you know the Batman one where it's they give people like this hallucinogenic and like the guy's face looks like the snakes? I don't know if you know that one.
I don't, but I am familiar with psychedelics. I do live in BC after all.
Okay. Yeah. You guys got a lot of them up there. My point is that the brainwave thing, like that's cool now, but that to me, that looks like version 1. So at some point, yeah, you're going to be able to read my brainwaves. I'm going to go to a health club. Go to a health club and it's going to basically take care of my entire body and my mind, not just from an endorphin standpoint, but from a blood work standpoint, from a scientific standpoint, from like a scan. Like, what if I go to the health club and I just like go walk in, like I walk into like one of those,
the airport scanner?
Yeah,
so it looks like you were doing the arms.
I haven't got arrested in like 30 years, but no.
Oh, you're overdue.
Yeah, fake ID. Yeah, my mom's still pissed about that. No, but I'm saying when you stand up and go in there in the TSA, like imagine you could do that on your way out of the health club and just give you like a report that you can pull and be like, oh, look, this is how I look today. That's going to happen at some point. It's going to be awesome. And there's probably some VC that's going to invest in $50 million in like a, exit body scan, in the Halo sector. So I'm very bullish on it. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be a lot of early stage money that loses money chasing ideas. But venture capital you're supposed to lose money in venture capital because you take a big risk. In private equity, I don't want to lose my money. I want to grow something that's already established. I want to prototype it. I want to help somebody build it. And my risk is that the competition is too strong. The price changes. My management team doesn't execute. I pick the wrong locations, or COVID happens again, right? Those are like my 5 reasons why I would lose money in private equity. So if I could like take 4 or 5 of those and kind of, you know, gate those, I could probably do pretty well in private equity. If I'm investing in ideas, like I know that only 1 out of 10 is going to be awesome. So point
That's
is,
awesome.
there's a
One could
lot
be a
of
life
money.
changer.
Yeah, there's we got a company that we're involved with called Higher Dose. They do infrared sauna blankets. They do electromagnetic field mats. We got a body sculptor coming out. We've got a hat that has red light for hair regrowth. All those things are going to become more and more mainstream, and the pricing, will be at a a price point that's the mass market can enjoy. They'll pay up for it because it's technology, but they'll be able to have that kind of experience. And look, these Ozempic and Wegovy or whatever that Wegovy,
Gobi.
yeah, Wegovy, like that's great. Like I'd love to get people to lose 50 pounds and then come into the gym and then live a halo lifestyle. And I think it's happening already. And people who lose weight are like so excited about themselves, right? And they
Yeah.
like brag about like, and they don't say like, yeah, I'm not, I didn't take it. They say, dude, I'm on Ozempic. Like, oh, dude, let's go to the gym now. Like, you don't have to feel awkward
It's
about
completely I just had this conversation with Bill Davis over at ABC because it's been fascinating. Obviously, we've all followed this space, but even friends in my own circle now that are taking it, and exactly what you just said. They're proud. They're like, "Yes, I'm taking this and this is what it's done." And then to see in real time them actually be excited about the lifestyle changes. Like I had one friend that started it. She's so amped up, took me through her whole supplement routine, asking me about weights. And so I was like, okay, it's not just something we were preaching out of the get go. This is causing a behavior change. People are excited to be a part of it. And to be honest, that surprised me a little bit because I didn't know how much was us just championing the fact that we could be a partner in it. Seeing it in real time now, I'm like, okay, that's
yeah.
pretty cool. I can get on board.
I mean, just on that note, I hope more health club operators, boutique operators, and they haven't done this yet. Maybe Lifetime has, like, start GLP workouts. Like, you have to work out 3 days a week, or else you're gonna like become frail and go into assisted living at like 35 years old if you're taking these things, right? Because your body's gonna shut down and your muscles won't grow. So instead of thinking like that's a threat, like to me, that's a huge opportunity. Let's get all these people in here that were so scared to walk in the front door. Basically say, welcome with open arms. You're on Ozempic? Awesome. We got 100 people that are on Ozempic. Like,
Yes.
this is what they look like before they came here. This is what they look like afterwards. Like, it's like a before and after picture of the day you walk in here and you've already started your Ozempic. Like, let me show you where I can get you to. It'd be like, holy shit, that's like a wow factor. Like, can I really look like that? Like, yeah, dude, you're not just going to lose weight. Like, I can make you awesome.
Yeah. No,
That's where the
exactly.
opportunity is. And that's a big thing with what I went back to before. Like if you take a business and you have 10 health clubs and you now have another $200,000 of revenue that has a 50% margin, I'll be able to sell you business for a lot more money, just by putting this program. It doesn't cost you anything. It costs you programming, like research, like the marketing pitch, and like time, effort, and energy. It doesn't cost you $100,000 if I gotta buy this equipment. I gotta like create this locker. I gotta put no, dude, like it's all there. Like you're the 4-wall authority within a 10-mile or 15-minute drive of your location. Act like it. That's what I'm trying to get these health club operators to do. Just act like you know everything. And if you don't know everything, figure out how you're gonna find out.
Well,
Last
you're a perfect segue actually of saying how you're going to find out, because I know having you on today, you were like perfect timing. I happen to have something coming up. So what might that be, Pete Moore?
Yeah, so I got my Halo Academy coming up. That's going to be starting. We do 5 nights. We go through 5 case studies like you're in business school. You get a Halo Academy certificate. And what we do is we go through, how does Planet Fitness work? What are the unit economics? What's the talk of all the private equity terms that you need to use? How does that business run? What's the special sauce? Then we do CrossFit. Then we do SoulCycle, Cycle for Survival, and Peloton. So basically over 5 nights, 10 hours, 90 minutes of class, and then 30 minutes we bring someone on from that brand. And it's called Halo Academy. We've had 300 people go through it already. It's $495. We got discounts if you bring some of your managers or your partners with you. And I will tell you, it'll change your life, because anytime you sit down after this class with anybody who works in private equity, You'll be able to talk to them. You'll be able to know that their acronyms are just acronyms that they use, that you now know what they are. And you can articulate better what your business model is. And once you can articulate to somebody how your business runs and how it differs from Planet Fitness, or how it differs from SoulCycle, or how it's like those brands, then you will get money, because people understand that you understand what you're doing. So that's why I pitch for Halo Academy. We take 25 people in to haloacademy.com. You get all the information. I'd love to have you on as well. It's all participatory, so I go around and ask questions. I don't call people out, to scathe them. I call them out to get information out of them and to share. And all the information up on the site. So I appreciate you giving me that plug. So I almost forgot.
Absolutely. I wasn't going to forget. I was like, we talked about it from the get-go. I'm circling back, and I'll make sure it's in the show notes as well. Pete Moore, Captain Pete Moore, our hero of the day, with some great intel. I really appreciate you sharing the insight with me.
Reporting to the office anytime you tell me to. Thank you. And I'll buy myself a new pair of sneakers now as a reward for this podcast. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Love what you're doing.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Krissy Vann. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.